surfaced that when she was over in Turkey, she heard audio of Jamal Khashoggi's killing. It all comes as Saudi Arabia changes its story once again, suggesting now that the death of Khashoggi may have been premeditated. Former Bush 43 Deputy Assistant Defense Secretary Peter Brookes on all of this. So get to the premeditation part, which surprised a grand total of no one in just a moment, Peter, I guess. But on the Gina Haspel briefing of the president, I wonder if that is the conversation, if that is the briefing that drives the U.S. response to all of this, especially if the reports from the Washington Post and Reuters are true that she heard audio.
Well, we don't know what she heard on the audio, but I think you're right. She'll be briefing the president on this. We may get some sort of information, or it could be very closely held. Remember, this is between intelligence services, the CIA and the Turkish intelligence services. But I think that everybody's pretty comfortable with the uncomfortable fact that this was premeditated on the part of Saudi security services. And the big question, Connell, of course, is where do we go from here? Right.
And that is, first of all, on the premeditation part, it's almost not worth having a conversation about if the reports that we have are accurate, like even if any of them are, but the idea that someone brought a bone saw has been reported, or the fact there were 15 agents there. I mean, anybody could have figured out that would have been premeditated, and now apparently the Saudis figured out themselves that they have to at least acknowledge that much. On the where we go from here, we had a conversation about this yesterday. Pompeo, the Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, came out the other day and he said that they're starting to identify some of the people responsible, and they're going to take some action. And he talked about revoking visas. That was what he mentioned. Some say, and it was suggested here on this show, that maybe that doesn't go far enough and we should be talking about other punishments. What do you say?
Yeah. Well, I think they've already revoked visas of those individuals who have been identified, and I assume that the U.S. government feels comfortable with those names that came out of Turkey. But there also, I understand that there's interagency talk about economic sanctions against these individuals and perhaps others. Many of these folks may have bank accounts in the United States come up against the U.S. banking system, so that would be another step. The Europeans are talking about suspending arms sales. Remember, the Saudis not only buy U.S. arms, but they also buy European and Canadian arms. And there was something passed in the European Parliament that said that they may actually do that. So I think what everybody's doing, at least I think on the American side, is gathering what we know. Director Haspel is briefing the president. They will evaluate that information, continue to collect our own information on this issue, and decide how to move forward on this horrible event.
A couple of things happened when you were speaking, and it's not obviously by accident. No, not in the news, on our screen. The price of oil popped up, first of all. It's almost a knee-jerk for us, when anytime we talk about this story. And then a bunch of the defense companies popped up on the screen as well. We were looking at their stock prices. So how do you view the risks? I mean, some people have come out and said, we have to be really careful because of this relationship with Saudi Arabia. And I've also heard the opposite, where people say, listen, we have to, our moral standards supersede that. We have to impose the proper punishment. And the risks really aren't as big as you think. And we'll all get over it down the line. I mean, do you have a view, or do you come down on either side of that?
Well, there is a lot at stake. Let's lay that out. First of all, the Saudis are an important partner of the United States for a lot of reasons. They're a leader in the Muslim world. They're a leader in the Arab world. They are important bulwark against Iranian expansionism, and that includes the terrible war in Yemen that's going on. They also are an energy giant, as you just mentioned. Right. They are an important economic customer of the United States on a number of issues. They're also an important counterterrorism partner. Think about that. I mean, we haven't been talking much about ISIS. We haven't been talking much about Al Qaeda, but they're still out there. So this is a very important relationship.
If all of this, it is. But if all of this is true, you still got to punish them, right?
Yeah, I think there needs to be some sort of accountability. There's no question about that. And we're going to have to figure out how to do that. But the first thing you need to do is gather all the information so that punishment is just.
Right. Peter, it's always good to see you. Always good analysis.
Thanks for having me.
Always nice to have you on. Peter Brookes. Now, in a few moments, we'll show you a picture. We're waiting for the